As I walked casually into my office and studio tonight, I was aware of a question that many listeners to this program ask me. That is, where do you get all the subject material you use night by night? And how do you know what you're going to speak on when you come into work? I welcome you to Nightsounds. I suppose I could come up with an easy generic answer like, well, I'm not quite sure, I just keep my eyes and ears open. But to tell you the truth, I do search far and wide as wide as I can without moving too far away from true center here. As far as subject material, topics, what we get into night by night, I don't like to use phrases like it's up for grabs because it sounds careless. But there's a certain kind of controlled mayhem to this whole thing. And tonight I really didn't have anything in mind. But I asked the Lord to sort of help me zero in on something. I get into some self-talk now and then, and I even ask myself, well, what's it going to be tonight? Well, I came up with no answers, so I went to prayer, and I didn't hear anything particularly in an audible form there. But when you pray, you're not always aware of how and when and where God will work in an answer to that prayer. So tonight, we're going to leave sort of an open-ended format. I've just entitled our time together, Stay Alert, because, well, as my dad used to say to me, sit loose in the saddle, son, because you never know what's going to hit you. Be ready for the unexpected. Well, not that we're that careless tonight, but I did come up with a few things that were sent in by listeners. Actually, our subject matter tonight centers around 3 grade school boys, ages about 6 to maybe 10 or 11. The first one is entitled, according to the piece of paper I found here, God Doesn't Make Grown-Ups. Somebody else said that, I didn't. But there is a good bit of truth to it. Before we get to that, however, I want to tune into some music with you. In our program title, Stay Alert, one way to do this, in fact the basic way, is to be ready for God to work in your life, especially when you remain sensitive. You've given yourself to Him, you've done the best you can, which usually isn't good enough, but with this dimension in view, it makes all the difference.
Oh
love that choir, especially when they come forth with a song like that. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Well, this is Night Sounds. I'm certainly glad you're there tonight because I'd hate to sit here all by myself. But we are together, and that makes a lot of difference because there is a concerted effort, I believe, in prayer for one another and for others. Getting back to our subject matter here, talking about a couple of young boys of whom we speak tonight, here's an interesting little item that came in from Pastor Don Sutton of the Christ Church of St. Michael's, Maryland. He was speaking about an adorable 8-year-old boy who wrote this for his 3rd grade Sunday school teacher who asked her students to explain God in their own way. Well, this little guy said, quote, "One of God's main jobs is making people. He makes these to put in the place of the ones who die, so there'll be enough people to take care of things here on earth. God doesn't make grown-ups. He just makes babies. I think because they're smaller and easier to make. That way, he doesn't have to take up his valuable time teaching them to walk and talk. He can just leave that up to the mothers and fathers. I think that works out pretty good. God's second most important job," said this little boy in grade school, "is listening to prayers. An awful lot of this goes on, because some people, like preachers and things, pray other times besides bedtimes. And Grandpa and Grandma pray every time they eat, except for snacks. God doesn't have time to listen to the radio or watch TV on account of all this, because God hears everything. Because God hears everything, there must be a terrible lot of noise in his ears, unless he thought of a way to turn it down. God sees and hears everything and is everywhere, which keeps him pretty busy. So you shouldn't go wasting his time asking for things that aren't important, or go over parents' heads and ask for something that they said you couldn't have, because it doesn't work anyway." I love it, don't you? Okay. I have a couple of poems here which I'm going to save for a little bit later. I want to get to this next little item here. It was sent from the internet, a dear friend down south. And it said, a young and successful executive was traveling down a neighborhood street going a bit too fast in his new Jaguar. He was watching for kids darting out from between parked cars and slowed down when he thought he saw something. As his car passed, no children appeared. Instead, a brick smashed into the Jag's side door. Well, he slammed on the brakes, spun the car back to the spot where the brick had been thrown. He jumped out of the car and grabbed some kid and pushed him against the parked car, shouting, "What was that all about? And who are you? Just what do you think you're doing?" He was building up a head of steam and went on, "That's a new car, and that brick you threw is going to cost a lot of money. Why did you do that?" The little guy said, "Please, mister, please, I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do. I threw the brick because no one else would stop." And tears began to come down the boy's face, and he pointed around the parked car. "It's my brother," he said. "He rolled off the curb and fell out of his wheelchair, and I can't lift him up." Sobbing, the boy asked the executive, "Please help me get him back in his wheelchair. He's hurt and he's too heavy for me." Moved beyond words, the driver tried to swallow the rapidly swelling lump in his throat. He lifted the young man back into the wheelchair, took out his handkerchief and wiped the scrapes and cuts, checking to see that everything was going to be okay. "Thank you, and may God bless you," the grateful child said to him. The man watched the little boy push his brother down the sidewalk toward their home. It was a long walk back to the Jaguar, a long, slow walk. He never did repair the side door. He kept the dent to remind him not to go through life so fast that someone has to throw a brick at you to get your attention. God whispers in your soul and speaks to your heart, sometimes when you don't have the time to listen, and he has to throw a brick at you, and it's your choice. Listen to the whisper, or wait for the brick. Tonight's program entitled Stay Alert. We just heard a great song by the National Christian Choir of Washington, D.C. We come in the name of the Lord. And that is certainly true tonight, because I feel I surely need God's help as I meet you night by night. We have a few more handicaps coming against us than we used to on this program and in this ministry. But, you know, things like that don't matter. Well, I shouldn't say don't matter. They matter to the Lord, but we don't have to be concerned unduly. As our apostle of grace said to the Corinthian church, don't worry about it. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to the Lord. And at that point, it's not going to be utopia, but he does promise the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. So if things aren't working out the way you think they should, or in the time frame that you expect, hang on, because God is there. He's listening, and he's leading. We're going to turn to a country sound for this next piece. Introducing the voice of Twyla Paris, one of the more mature and older of the contemporary artists.
He leadeth me, oh blessed thought, oh words with heavenly comfort fraught. Whate'er I do, where'er I be, still 'tis God's hand that leadeth me. He leadeth me, he leadeth me, by his own hand he leadeth me. His faithful followers
Fading out into the distance there, Twyla Paris, the song, He, Christ, Leadeth Me, one of the old ones on Nightsounds. Well, taking a moment's break here, in case you've just joined us in the last few minutes. This is Nightsounds. I'm Bill Pearce, with you via radio. Good to have you there. Tonight we're sort of wandering around in our material, talking about some true stories that happen to children. Maybe a poem or two if we have time. Just to say that Nightsounds does continue when we go off the airwaves, in the form of compact discs, in the treasury of sacred music, vocal and instrumental expressions that we've come upon through the years. Our mailing address is Nightsounds, Wheaton, Illinois, 60189. The email address, nightsoundsradio@aol.com. For any of you who'd like information on where Nightsounds can be heard in what state, and where in that state, and even overseas, we invite you to visit our website. Nightsoundsradio.org is our address. Getting back to the topical material and main fare of the program, this particular item came in through the email. It's a true story. Every Sunday afternoon, after morning service at the church, the pastor and his 11-year-old son would go to their town and hand out gospel tracts. This particular Sunday afternoon, as it came time for the pastor and his son to go to the streets with their tracts, it was very cold outside, as well as pouring down rain. Well, the boy bundled up in his warmest and driest clothes and said, "Okay, Dad, I'm ready." The pastor asked, "Ready for what, son?" "Well, Dad, it's time we got our tracts together and go out." And Dad responds, "Son, it's very cold outside and it's pouring down rain." Well, the boy gave his dad a surprised look, asking, "But Dad, aren't people still going to go to hell even though it's raining?" And Dad answered, "Son, I'm not going out in this weather." Despondently, the boy asked, "Well, Dad, can I go? Please?" His father hesitated for a moment, then said, "Okay, son, you can go, but be careful. Here are the tracts." "Thanks, Dad." And with that, he was off and out into the rain. This 11-year-old boy walked the streets of the town, going door to door, handing everybody he met in the street a gospel tract. Well, after 2 hours of walking in the rain, he was soaking bone-chilled wet down to his very last tract. He stopped on a corner and looked for someone to hand a tract to, but the streets were totally deserted. Then he turned toward the first home he saw, started up the sidewalk to the front door, and rang the doorbell. But no one answered. He rang again and again, but still no answer. Finally, this 11-year-old trooper turned to leave, and something stopped him. Again he turned to the door and rang the bell and knocked loudly on the door. He waited. He rang again. This time, the door slowly opened. Standing in the doorway was a very sad-looking elderly lady. She softly asked, "What can I do for you, son?" With radiant eyes and a smile that lit up her world, this little boy said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry if I disturbed you, but I just want to tell you that Jesus really does love you, and I came to give you my last gospel tract, and it'll tell you all about Jesus and his love." With that, he handed her his last tract and turned to leave. She called to him as he departed, "Thank you, son, and God bless you." Well, the following Sunday morning in church, the pastor was in the pulpit. As the service began, he asked, "Does anyone have a testimony or want to say anything?" Slowly, in the back row of the church, an elderly woman stood to her feet. As she began to speak, a radiance seemed to come from her face as she said, "None of you in this church know me. I've never been here before. You see, before last Sunday I was not a Christian. My husband has passed on some time ago, leaving me totally alone in this world. Last Sunday, being particularly cold and rainy day, it was even more so in my heart as I came to the end of the line where I no longer had any hope or will to live. And I took a rope and a chair and went up the stairway into the attic of my home. I fastened the rope securely to a rafter of the roof and stood on the chair and fastened the other end of the rope around my neck. Standing on that chair so lonely, I was about to leap off when suddenly the loud ringing of my doorbell startled me. I thought, I'll wait a minute. Whoever it is will go away. But the person did not go away, but kept knocking loudly. Nobody ever rings my bell or comes to see me. Well, I quickly loosened the rope and started for the front door, and I could hardly believe my eyes, for there on my front porch was the most radiant, angelic little boy I'd ever seen in my life. His smile, oh, I never could describe it to you. And the words that came from his mouth caused my old heart that long had been dead to leap to life. "Ma'am, I came to tell you that Jesus really does love you." Then he gave me this gospel tract I now hold in my hand. And as that little angel disappeared back out to the cold and rain, I closed my door and read slowly every word of this precious gospel tract. I won't be needing the rope and chair anymore. You see, I am now a happy child of the King. And since the address of your church was on the back of this tract, I have come here personally to say thank you to God's little angel, who just came in the nick of time, and so doing, he spared my soul from eternity in hell. Well, probably no church has had a more glorious moment. And that is the truth. The truth. As it came from the heart of a child. Well, probably no one ever saw a dad more filled with love and honor for his son, except for one, God, our Heavenly Father, who allowed his son to go out into a cold and dark world. And he received his son back with joy unspeakable, because he, Jesus, died for you, and he loves you as no one else ever could. Thank you so much for sharing these special moments with me tonight. I pray God's blessing and peace upon you until we meet again in His divine providence, possibly through Nightsounds. To you, a good day tomorrow and a peaceful and restful good night.